lunch break at 1:35 p.m. We left off after the APRC committee report. Audit report has been stricken from the agenda. The next report on our agenda is the awards committee.
Convention oversight.
Just kidding. Convention oversight. Do we have someone here to present? Yes, we do. Mr. Eric Rotzep, come on up.
Hello, my name is Eric Rotzep, and I'm representing the Convention Oversight Committee. I just want to, first of all, thank everyone who sat on the last committee. Our chair, Jim Turney, members, Mr. Bowen, Alex Flores, Aaron Adams, Kelsey Lyon, Janae LeBlanc, and myself. There was a lot of hard work, and a lot of people don't understand the long hours leading up to the convention, and then the even longer hours at the convention. So thank you to all my convention committee fellows for all the hard work that they put in. I want to share some successes. Our first success is that the convention in Reno was the most profitable convention in the history of the Libertarian Party. With convention receipts alone bringing in $54,215,000. With fundraising and lifetime memberships and other membership packages bringing in an additional $138,799.87. Also, some other imports, I'm sorry, scroll to a different document. There was an addendum, and all the expanded report is on the OneNote, and I hope you all read it. This is the first convention to have a fully formed app. We are proud to say 49% of all attendees utilized the app, meaning that 619 individual logins were generated and constituting 49% of attendees. This is something that the convention committee found great success in and was able to change information on the fly, giving everyone the most up-to-date information possible. Volunteers were also a great success. We had 43 volunteers filling 160 spots, all with 2 to 4 hour shifts, and all of our volunteers, without the convention, would not have been as successful, but I will not go ahead and name them all, but thank you for everyone who volunteered. I also want to go back to the original report. There are some suggestions made to the LNC, and I wanted to highlight those momentarily. First, the COC asks that the LNC populate the new COC as soon as humanly possible. If not with a vote this weekend, I implore you to please do it by an email vote well before your next in-person meeting. It's amazing how much can be accomplished this early in the game. Second, please keep all convention decisions under one committee and allow the COC to have a subcommittee or other necessary secondary committees report to the COC. This includes oversight, planning, and voting procedures. We were given a very good use of our own ability and a lot of trust by the last LNC, which made it much easier, but that has not always been the case in the past. I also implore you to create a booth for the next convention in DC and already start ticket sales at that point. That will give the next COC, after the one that you form, a head start already and guaranteeing attendance. Make sure that the website is up and running for DC as soon as possible. This will allow getting some of the kinks out of the system and will cause less problems down the road. We did it very efficiently thanks to the help of the IT department and Andy over there. But we also had a lot of unreasonable and very short timelines that we asked of him. So if we were able to give him a little bit longer leeway or longer lead time, I'm sure he would have appreciated it. But he put in a lot of long hours for us. That will also allow us to create better reporting for us, so we have a better handle on everything that's coming in. While the reports were excellent, there were a lot of manipulations that we had to kind of keep going back and running back to Andy because, again, things were done under the gun. Modify the rules for COC. This is a big ask, but this is something that former COCs have asked for and we ask for again. Please make a rule that says that COC members cannot be delegates. We're just as guilty as every other libertarian and want to wear as many hats because of our love for this party. But being a COC member and a delegate is very difficult because you have to be on the floor for votes, but you also have to put out every single fire that occurs at convention. By creating that rule, you would actually make it an impediment to do so and would actually make the convention committee more efficient. Actively encourage the staff to interact with the COC at our meetings. We developed great relationships with Andy and with the development team and several other individuals. But there were also members of the staff who were apprehensive of becoming part of the COC or actively joining in our meetings. That definitely put us at a disadvantage. Ask that staff should be on our meetings, just kind of reiterating the point, at critical junctions and decision-making points. Ask that staff be at the convention no later than day -3. Having staff on site at the convention prior to anything really beginning is a huge assistance to just making sure that the convention comes off smoothly. We also ask that you provide all of these suggestions, not only for the LNC, but also for the future COC to them directly, so they have the best institutional knowledge. And also create some sort of COC Google Drive and also grant all COC members an LP email address to ensure that proper communication can be efficient and quick. That concludes my report. Do I have any questions to field?
Sure. Can you tell me that membership revenue from the convention all the time?
So direct receipts from the convention generated $54,215. And additional fundraising, memberships, and lifetime memberships generated $138,799.87. One thing I did quickly skip over is I did mention that was the general receipts is the highest fundraising that this party has ever done. We missed overall attendance by 11. We missed overall attendance by 11. The still current reigning champion is 2016 in Orlando. So the one thing that I want to note is that this is not a presidential nomination year, and 2016 was, and we only missed it by 11.
Definitely the biggest.
Yeah, by far. The nearest non-presidential election, and I don't have the exact number, but it was somewhere in the vicinity of 175.
Was that 20?
No, actually, it was, I believe, St. Louis.
Oh,
Just to be clear for anybody who's trying to do the math, that $54,000 was profit, not revenue.
Oh, sorry, profit, sorry, yeah.
yeah, because that's after we covered the expenses.
Yeah, that's after we come to the expenses. Yes.
The request for the Google Drive thing, that is part of the planning I was doing with the file management that I was working on. If you could please send me all of the documents that were generated by this convention committee that you wish to be preserved, I'll put it in there. The next convention committee will have access to all of that. And I'm actually gonna get in touch with Alicia Matson because I know she has a lot of records from old ones.
Yes.
And I'll get that all in a dedicated area for the convention committee, so that will be done.
That is already huge because, and I'm sure Rich will attest, we definitely had a little bit of a learning curve, even though we came out with it.
Yeah, please send it to me and I'll make sure that that gets taken care of.
Absolutely. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I'm trying to create an operations manual for the Georgia Literature Employee. The way I'm doing that is I'm asking the officers, the chair, the secretary, and treasurer to write on a spreadsheet, you know, it's July, and I filed the report with the feds on the 15th. It's sort of basically like a diary. And then that diary can be used by subsequent people to say, okay, in July the 15th, somebody had to file this report. Now, it's not going to be as easy with the COC because it doesn't have an order like a normal year for a local affiliate. But my suggestion would be that at least the idea be thought of by the next COC, that we keep a diary of what we do. So we got to call the hotel today, or we got to call, you know, the caterer today, and just sort of a list of the things that this team did, so that there'd be a checklist for next.
And you actually just, that's a great idea. We do have actually a date checklist that has been generated for us, and we used it to great effect, and that will definitely put into the Google Drive that will be handed over to Karen Ann. But I do apologize. The font is very small on my phone, and I did skip a point that I wanted to bring over to the LNC, and you reminded me of it. The current COC that is terminating, we were very fortunate that we did not have to go through the process of finding a 2024 location because there were so many great bids for 2022 that Washington, D.C. was already signed before we were sat. The next COC is not so lucky that they do have to formulate where the 2026 location is done. So I would also urge the LNC to have that finalized as soon as humanly possible and to be putting out our RFQs for that, along with this COC, to make sure that that can be designated, because that'll take a lot of stress and emphasis off the COC. Yes, sir.
No, I was going to ask if you could elaborate more on the process of ramping up the site selection.
I will. That's a little bit of a longer conversation. We can have that offline. Yes, Rich.
Yeah, just an announcement. Most of you, all of you know, the next convention is going to be at the DC Hilton. Robert was nice enough to determine if we could meet there at some point. Unfortunately, we were only able to get an appointment on Monday at 10 a.m. Some of us will be attending, those that are still in town. And just want to let everybody know that all members are welcome to join us. If you are in town until Monday afternoon or Monday evening, I believe the time is from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. to do a walk. So if you're available, please, you're welcome to join us.
Any other questions? In that case, I will yield the rest of my time. Thank you so much for your support.
All right. Review reports. Okay, so we have a couple of things coming up. We have ballot access. Mr. Nana stepped out of the room. He'll be right back. After that, we have EPCC. We're going to need to call Mr. Nikhil for that. Mr. Krause, can you see if you can get Stephen on the phone?
About what time would you be ready for?
Between now and 10 minutes from now. And if not, we'll move things around, but I'm gonna see if you have him on the phone before I do it. And then after that is gonna be historical preservation. So while Dustin Dana is out, I was.
Okay, he's available.
He's available? Okay. It's gonna take 2 minutes, but I know we all want to hear these reports. Ballot Access has some great stuff. He's available?
Yep.
Okay, let's call him now. Let's pull him up now. And then I'm gonna ask if anybody would be so kind as to facilitate switching these 2 reports on the agenda so that we don't have to just sit here and wait.
I'll move that in a second.
So moved and seconded. Any discussion or objection? Nope. Going once, going twice, takes 2/3 to amend the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Okay,
Welcome. We have Steve.
All right. Hello, everyone.
Hello, Stephen?
hey,
Sorry, I couldn't be there in person this weekend, but some things came up, just wasn't possible. I had to make a last minute decision, but I certainly missed everybody. Wish I could be there, and I'll definitely be making the next meeting and the next event. So enjoy Washington D.C. and thanks for letting me get in on this.
Thank you. We are hoping to hear an EPCC report from you, if you would be so kind.
Absolutely. Yeah, so EPCC, I would say we're off to a really good start this term. We've got Kathy, myself as chairman, Dustin as vice chairman, and we were picking up a little bit where we left off last term. So there's a couple of different things we want to continue on as far as talking to Cap Dale. We want to look at what edits we can make to policy manuals that affect staff policy. What are some things we want to do as far as staff trainings? The last term we devised the corporate structure. We also came up with a couple memorandums on different things like staff relationship with LNC, et cetera. So there's a few more things we want to sit down and accomplish. I've got some notes at home, and we're going to be doing a little bit of brainstorming. I'm sure we're going to do a lot more as we head into this term. As you guys know, with Tyler's departure and a lot of turnover with staff, we're looking at, I would say, probably between now and early next year, quite a few new hires. I know we're in a unorthodox situation now, considering the hiring process that we're going through now, and I'll see approval on a few items that may typically just go through EPCC, which is fine. That's what we have to get through this, and as things change and we get our new executive director, of course, the EPCC will take more of a priority role when it comes to the hiring process. And of course, we're here to assist the chair and ED on their search and looking at resumes and all those fun things for final approval here in the future. I do think we have room for future hiring. We've certainly got many positions open that are in the budget that I think we need to be obviously conscientious of our financials, but we'll prioritize first, and that's going to be a conversation handled with very open and candid and one of the best of those meetings. So we'll make sure we can make the best decisions for the board. Moving forward, I expect some collaboration with the EPCC and the interim or new executive director as far as looking at our staff reviews and those types of things. coming up for the end of the year. So we're excited about that. I hope that we can do some more performance-based reviews in the future with feedback, guidelines, and empower our folks that are eager to make those reviews happen and make sure we have feedback from our staff that, we want to make sure that we're in a position where they know what their next steps are. We do those personal development goals and plans with them and make sure they're reaching their personal and professional goals in our LNC. So we've got a lot on our plate. I really look forward to it. It's going to be a really phenomenal term. We've got a really great team. And that's pretty much the meat and potatoes of it. And if there's any questions, I'm all ears.
Anybody have any questions? None, huh? Going once, going twice. Okay, well, thank you, Stephen, for calling in, and I appreciate your work very much. And we may ask you to call in again tomorrow, if that's okay. I'll touch base with you beforehand.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Just let me know, and I'll be on standby and here for anything. And again, sorry I couldn't see everybody, but I'll do whatever I can to participate remotely and come here to the meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Much shorter than I thought. We will stand at ease for 5 minutes, or should I keep making motions to amend the?
Stand at ease.
You want 5 minutes?
Yeah.
5 minutes.
Okay.
Stand at ease. Not too easy, just a little bit.
It's standing in a
Slight. Don't forget, we're online.
So that's what
Yeah, we're still live, Mike, hot mic.
Hot night.
Right on back to your room for 5 minutes.
It's so cool.
No, we put it up. Oh, no, it failed. So we introduced so that failed.
I think it's like wasn't there anymore, it's all stuff.
Listening to music. I'm currently listening to the
I was like, looking, when I go to the office, we get to meet. But I'm in it.
I like the idea.
Oh, yeah. But it's a very, we've been early over.
I have a lot. So I do it like, I manage servers and networking for like a couple different local clinics. And then I also have worked in the clinics veterinary for like 12 years. Now I'm not doing consulting for that, and then I'm also doing work on the side.
What is your feeling for art?
I do everything. So I don't do graphic, like I don't do like logos, but I do actual like. I do that, yes, I do a lot of, I like to do more of like freelancing, like comic books, I can do pretty much Yeah, I'm very busy. I have a lot of yeah, like I mean, I enjoy it all, and it's all like little pieces of things that I like to do rather than like giving like time to like Texas, yeah. That's how Texas. Yeah.
This is first I've heard of
I like money to come.
We have last state meeting. You know, I mean, there are still, we have we can have six-member city executive. So we are, per capita, we are the largest state executive body. So we have a lot of support, a lot of opinion. Well, open Texas is, we have, I'll have to double check the membership. Membership numbers are really good, the voting numbers we had, so, just for my county. Yeah.
Yeah. 70.
See, we have like a core membership number, but maybe it's really high turnout, like we have.
1 minute warning.
In our convention.
1 minute warning.
So we have like.
Just in my county, Tarrant County, we had 37 county convention delegates, and since full slate of 20 delegates.
I guess.
Well, I think that they're talking about their business.
I've been to Austin once, I thought.
Yeah, it'll be.
I was looking forward to going.
Yeah, 2026. Yeah.
Hey, yeah.
Bring it back.
I did like.
I'm so impressed with how rough cloth everybody does. Texas still. There's all the
Well, yeah, well, and the funny is that Austin dress and like Dallas dress versus Fort Worth dress is that we all dress up. But it looks much different.
All right, let's come back to our chairs and settle down. We are still in business. We were just standing at ease. So you are now going to sit at dis-ease.
Okay, it's time for the ballot access committee report. Take it away, Mr. Mann. Nope.
All right, perfect. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Ballot access report. The committee had 5 vacancies coming out of the national convention, 2 LNC vacancies and 3 at-large. 2 of those at-large seats have been filled, one by Ms. Helen Gilson from Ohio and one by Ken Molman from Kentucky, which leaves us with the 2 LNC seats still and 1 at-large, which I think is going to be filled here very soon. LNC vacancies will need to be filled by this body. The Ballot Access Committee requests that happen sometime very soon, preferably between meeting business shortly after this in-person meeting here today. The only official item of business that we conducted at our first meeting since we put the 2 other folks on was electing me chair. And then I will go through, since my report was kind of late, the status of the current drives that we have sent money to, beginning with New Hampshire. This drive is still ongoing. August 10th is their deadline. The last signature count was roughly 2,600 raw signatures in Congressional District 1 and 3,300 in Congressional District 2. They need 3,000 total ballots statewide, including 1,500 in each congressional district. So they are at or above the goals set forth by the state party to ensure success of the drive. I'm very confident about this. I think that they're absolutely going to succeed. To retain ballot access moving forward, either their gubernatorial or senatorial candidate will have to get first this November. Moving on to Illinois, as I'm sure most of you are already aware, this drive has been completed successfully. There was no challenge submitted to the overall signatures, but there is a challenge pending with one of their specific candidates, which I believe was discussed like a little bit earlier in the regional board. In order to retain one of their statewide candidates will need to get 5% this November. I'd like to give a huge shout out and thank you to Mr. Redpath, who personally spent tens of thousands of dollars and collected 7,500 signatures himself. So that takes us to the status of current and recently completed drives that we have not sent LNC funds to. Starting with Connecticut, this is a drive that is ongoing. The deadline is August 10th. I have not received a specific count for this drive, so I'm unsure if they will succeed or not. I remain hopeful that they will. They will need to gather 7,500 valid signatures for each candidate they intend to run. If successful, they will need to get 1% of the vote to retain ballot access for that specific office. Moving on to Rhode Island, the signature drive is completed and deemed unsuccessful, unfortunately, by the state. There is a challenge ongoing that we can remain hopeful will succeed. Due to circumstances out of the state party's control, the signature gathering window ended up only being 9 days. That said, in those 9 days, they collected over 1,300 raw signatures. The valid number needed being 1,000. I think that's a pretty Herculean effort in 9 days. Rhode Island had validated 27% of the signatures submitted, leaving them only 56 signatures short, which is just brutal. If the decision is overturned and we achieve ballot access, the gubernatorial candidate will need to get 5% in order to retain for the next time. And moving on to Ohio, the signature drive is ongoing and is in its infancy. There's theoretically no deadline, but depending on when Ohio submits its signatures is when ballot access is achieved. Currently, 59,223 signatures needed. Expect that number to go down significantly because it's based on 1% of the total votes cast in either the most recent presidential or gubernatorial election. So assuming not as many people vote this year that did in 2020 in the presidential, we will be in better shape there. If we do achieve ballot access, we'll have two cracks at it, and either our gubernatorial or presidential candidate will need to achieve 3% in the general election, and then that restarts that 4-year clock whenever that happens. Some final thoughts. In general, price per paid signature has gone up dramatically in the past few years. In the recent past, we've been able to pay approximately $3 to $4 a signature. Fortunately, this is no longer really even close to the case. At a minimum, petitioners are usually asking for $5 per raw signature, making our per ballot cost come out to about $6.66, even if they achieve a 75% validity rate, which in the petitioning world is pretty good. This means we need to do a couple of things to keep costs down when we fund drives. Chiefly, we need to foster a culture of volunteerism when it comes to signature gathering. Historically, volunteers have provided too little in terms of the portion of signatures submitted. Every single raw signature a volunteer gets saves us $5. In addition, volunteers tend to, if properly trained, get validity rates even higher than those from the paid petitioners. Secondly, we need to closely monitor and check the validity of our paid petitioners long before those signatures are turned in, so that we can adjust who we are cutting checks to currently and in the future. Simply knowing that this is going on will encourage paid petitioners to do better work. And the last thing I wanted to mention, bit of good news, some little guy named Justin Amash has decided to join the advisory committee, so I'm very excited about that. Hopefully we can get him tuned in. I think he'll have a wealth of experience and knowledge to provide us. And putting his name in the end of the press release, maybe we'll get it picked up by some media outlets.
Anybody have questions?
Just a quick one. What do you, in certain areas like New York, they're moving to an hourly wage, and a fairly high one. In New York, the top out is about $30 per hour. Do you see that as a trend elsewhere, and what are your thoughts on it, given all the experience?
Well, I personally don't like it. I haven't really seen it take hold in too many places yet. Certainly, I can see it happening in places like California and New York. Typically, we would rather it be based on signature. It's a little bit easier to track that. Otherwise, then we're going to have to really crack down on, how long did it take you to collect these signatures? How many hours did you work? And then, that's super hard to verify. Somebody could come in and be like, oh, I worked 16 hours. I was out there, from such and such time, such and such time. Unless we're physically observing and collecting the signatures, it's going to be kind of hard to. It's going to be trust but verify essentially.
How many vacancies do you have right now?
Right now, there is one at-large vacancy and 2 LNC vacancies. The at-large vacancy, as you know, we've received several people that are interested, so I think that's probably filled soon. But we have 2 LNC vacancies, and they have to come from somebody on this board. It can be an alternate, a rep, or an officer, but it has to be somebody on the board.
Okay, so right now I'm gonna appoint one.
It has to be a vote of the LNC.
Okay,
You get to appoint the alternate.
I'll do that. How do you want to handle? How long does it take?
We could, if you guys want to add it to the agenda and vote and do it right here at this first meeting at some point, maybe tomorrow.
You want about 3-ish minutes left.
Well, that's not gonna be enough. I know 2 individuals have
Does
expressed,
anybody, ask somebody at the table wants it, then they'll elect.
2 people have expressed interest.
Okay.
And it's Mr. Ford and Mr. Smith.
Okay,
I'm also interested.
Okay, so we would
Never
have to have one.
mind.
so we're gonna need an election, but we'll let everybody know right now that we've got 3 people who are interested in ballot access. Mr. Smith, Mr. Ford, Ford, Mr. Billion, and Ms. Roberts. So there's 4 people? 5. And Mr. Billion. Okay, what do you know?
Well, I got no company, but
That's what I did, asking you guys in advance, I know what I'm saying. Okay, so,
Madam Chair, I would move to add to new business without a previous notice, filling up the 2 LNC vacancies on the ballot access committee.
Second.
okay. So let's look at the schedule real quick for tomorrow in new business. Let's take a look at what we've got.
It would be in the without previous notice.
Yeah.
So, roll.
There we go.
I haven't had any bad, things there, but.
Okay. How many minutes do we think this might take?
Well, I could set up an overvote ballot. We can do the nomination speeches. I can send out the ballot and the results can be announced on the list, so it can be fairly quickly. We just do the nomination speeches in 5 minutes. I send out an overvote ballot. We give you a day to vote and we can announce it on the list.
Okay, so why don't we, unless we do runoff votes?
Well, I mean, we could do, I know, but we could do it by RCV.
Okay.
I mean, we could, however,
But either way, it'll
Yeah.
only take a few minutes.
yeah, I think all it takes will be nomination and we're gonna allow people to speak to their nomination.
3 minutes.
15 minutes?
I think we can do it under 10.
All right, let's set it. So let's make the motion.
I make the motion now.
Okay,
Second.
this takes 2/3 to amend the agenda. Do we have any objections? Okay, we're gonna do a hand raise vote, and then I'll rework it when you see. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion passes, the agenda has been updated for tomorrow. Thank you, we will take care of that then. Any other questions for Mr. Nance? We're good, all right.
We don't need ECC now.
You took care of that, we just switched.
I have a question actually, real quick.
Okay, go right ahead.
Based on your current knowledge and understanding of the process, what are the characteristics that you are looking for an LNC member to bring to
So I'm going to be able to attend meetings fairly regularly. We will be going to helping put together a comprehensive report for each board sometime for the next in-person meeting. Detailing what ballot access takes in all 50 states and DC. And ideally, I would split that up and on either where you live or just choose part of the country and go do that work. Bring it all together, make a comprehensive report. I want to give the LNC a definitive price tag of what's going to take to get our candidates on the ballot in 2024.
Okay, next item on the agenda is policy manual amendments.
I think historical.
Just kidding.
I think policy amendments tomorrow.
Oh, you're right, I'm looking at tomorrow.
Yeah, I think it's.
I'm not so excited. Okay, same personnel, historical preservation, but it's wrong.
All right, let me grab over my box here for a second. I'm gonna wanna show you guys something on the screen, but first we have, we're interviewing for 2 open positions on the historical committee, so if anyone's interested, let me know, we're doing one more round of interviews. It's been a very close-knit committee, it's been a lot of the same people since 2017 now, but we all really love what we're doing. But the reason I have a box here, 1 second, I'll have to rip open one of these, but we raise our own budget, at least we try to. So far in the whatever years that the committee has existed, we have taken nothing out of the general budget, we raise our own. So I do have t-shirts here, if you guys feel like parting with any of your money for the historical committee, for at least a $25 donation. I've got a box of historical items here, but these are some shirts we had made a while ago, but they're pretty cool. It's got the hand staple on the front, and David Nolan's Libertarian Party condensed platform on the back, which if you've never seen it, says, "We favor the abolition of damn near everything. We call for the drastic reductions in everything else, and we refuse to pay for what's left." So I've got a box of these. $25 donation or more. Please don't make me come back home with these because I hate to ship them here. Now, what I want to show you on the screen here a second is I really encourage the LNC to make use of Elpedia. That is where all the historical things go. But say you're on a committee, and I'm going to give you an example. The platform committee last year, we had a page for it, and we put everything members might want on this one page. So all of our minutes are on here. We advertised all of our meetings on here. And our reports, how we elected our chair, like every single thing, here's all the meeting minutes, recordings, agenda. If each committee did this, there would be a lot more transparency in the party. We have pages like this though also for each region. So these great newsletters that Miguel's sending out, you can convert it to PDF and have an index of all your newsletters. But something else I wanted to show you what the Libertarian Party of Colorado has done, they don't put their board records on their website anymore, because you know what happens, state parties change websites, and then all of a sudden they lost all their minutes and everything. Well, LP hopefully is going to be permanent, so Colorado just uses our storage and puts all of their board minutes and recordings and agendas, and they've been doing that for a while, as you can see. So I'd encourage every state party to do that. But there is a wealth of information on here, but you guys can add a lot. If each of you don't have an LPD article, you should. We're not like Wikipedia, you're allowed to write your own article, because if you're overly boastful, another LP member will come along and take care of that, I assure you. So please, if you're not familiar with LPD, use it. We've got an excellent page rank, and during campaign season, get your candidates to make an LPD page, because it will come up near the top of the search results. So even though they'll have their own, campaign web page, this will stay up even 10 years after their campaign. And it can provide some good historical information. And I encourage each regional, please go look at the pages for the states in your region. A lot of them are really, really outdated. So it's a blessing and a curse to have a high page rank, because if a reporter is going and they're researching their state party and they find Wikipedia and it has the chair from 10 years ago, that's not a good look. But LP is just like Wikipedia, it's community source. The historical committee does not put all this information in here. We administrate it, but it's the community that puts things up. I can do a quick, if anyone here isn't Wikipedia editors, we use the same software they use, so if you've ever edited Wikipedia, it's the same thing. But I can do a short instructional video that I can send out to the LNC on how to do edits, how to create an article. But really make use of this resource that has exploded over the years. And if you're ever interested in, just one second, historical platforms, they're all up here. A lot of people were doing this with this last convention. They wanted to know, how long certain language has been in a platform. Because a certain phrase people were claiming was in it from the beginning. No, that hasn't been. And, you verify that sort of thing on LPD.
What are the provisions for non-text media? Like, I know you have links to YouTube videos and
Yes.
things. Those can disappear. Is there any
Okay,
mechanism?
when somebody puts a link, you can embed a YouTube video, but what I do, this is what part of the historical committee does, is we review all the changes. There's an admin screen that shows every change made each day. So say you were to embed a YouTube video on a page, I go and download that video and we save it on our offsite hard drive. So if they ever disappeared from YouTube, we still have the videos, because I go and retrieve all of those. So all the documents that are up on LP are also saved on external storage. So that's another thing. If anyone ever wanted just a huge data dump of all the party archives, you send me a hard drive, I'll send it to you. Because my thought is, this all used to be in a storage locker here in Virginia. And if anything had ever happened, that would be gone. So now with it being digital and we just distributing copies everywhere, it's kind of like, the promulgation of the New Testament. They sent it to like 1 million churches so it couldn't be lost. The same thing, I want to promulgate the party archives, because we really were in danger of losing all this stuff. But there's things on here like campaign flyers from some campaign 20 years ago, and you might think, well, who really cares about that? You just got to update it. Because the information, like rights are rights, the same arguments that were made 20 years ago, you might need to update it to the current creations of the state. But the arguments for why the state shouldn't be doing it are the same. We shouldn't be reinventing the wheel each time we want to do like a press release on gun rights. And speaking of press releases, during the time when Bill Winter was sending out all of those press releases, I have all of them on here, and they they are fantastic. Oh, no, I'm good. So unless there's any questions, you know, I could talk about the historical thing, you know, forever. But again, please don't make me go home with these t-shirts. Oh, there's a question.
I do have a question. Okay, so
Okay, we are, over time. Does anybody want to make a motion to extend time?
So moved, fine.
Here we go. We're ahead of schedule, so it's fine. 5-5?
Yeah, second.
Second? Any discussion or objection? Nope. Motion passes. Keep going.
since this is like the source archive, if somebody wants to use any of this for any kind of like external material, like if someone wanted to make a documentary or they wanted to make something that would, you know, involve rights of some sort, can we use it? Or
It's
like,
all under Creative Commons.
okay, so if someone were to ask that question, we can just give them that information.
Yeah, unless, like, if it's an embedded YouTube video, we obviously don't own that.
Yes.
But if it's anything that's been produced by the party, it's all on there under Creative Commons.
Okay.
I just wanted to echo this comment regarding former national communications director, really fine work 20-some-odd years ago, as the community will learn our level of press interviews, media contacts, C-SPAN coverage of the convention, and at that time, it was for deputy press director because we needed it, right? So it's a great resource to go back. We have done this, we can.
Well, what was amazing about Bill is he found a Liberty issue every single day to bitch about. And I mean that in a very good way. And the best press release, it's my favorite of all time, if you go to the press releases page, it's called Tempest in a Toilet Bowl. And it is the best one ever, where we just ranted about the low flow toilets. But it was a great, the puns in it were just.
Funny, man.
They were great, but every single day they found something, you know, people weren't allowed to use camping beds. We put out a press release about it, like because there is infringements of liberty every single day. So those press releases are great. They will help your state parties, your new communications directors learn how to write a good press release by reading Bill Winter's press release. Oh, yeah, and they're lovely, I love them.
Okay, any further questions? Going once, going twice? All right. Next item on our agenda is report of chairs, special committees. We've got social media ad hoc committee, so there's 3 components.
I was gonna speak first for it.
Yep, we got Mr. Benner, we got Tyler, you're good, and are you going to do a little bit about Facebook?
Yes.
again? Fantastic, all right, come on up.
All right, since assuming control over the Twitter account, we've made a conscious effort to message in a more radical, more irreverent way. We've certainly tried to make clear that we don't perceive the state as merely misguided, but as evil. We've made that a priority. We've also done a lot more emphasis on political decentralization, certainly when it comes to, or especially when it comes to nullification. And we put out a lot more reply tweets, especially to Biden. That's gotten us a lot more exposure. That's been a big source of people that wouldn't otherwise see the party messaging coming to it and viewing it. In terms of cadence, we put out about three primary tweets a day and 2 to 3 retweets of state affiliates / candidates. Now, some days it might be 2 candidates, 1 state affiliate, maybe 2 state affiliates, 1 candidate, etc. But that's a general cadence. Dave Smith and I are both aligned in making radical anti-Fed, anti-war messaging the cornerstone, our bread and butter for the Twitter account. We're both aligned on that. But we've also made headway on other issues like guns and other subjects that have come up in the news cycle. As Republicans think it's based to support school vouchers, we've made it clear that we believe in the absolute separation of education and state. As Democrats, think it's really being outside of the box to legalize marijuana. We've said we won't stop until we decriminalize all drugs and end the pernicious drug war that's claiming so many lives. So we're really passionate about all those things we want to put to the forefront. Now, I don't believe the data on the Twitter account as far as metrics goes back to the original beginning of the account in 2009, I believe. But of the data I saw, I believe in actually in all of the key metrics that Twitter keeps, that we've set records in every category. So in our first 28-day stretch is what I'm talking to right now. So in that time, in the first 28 days after inheriting the account, we had 16.1 million tweet impressions. That was up 469%. We had 2.59 million profile visits. That was up 199%. This is again a 28-day period, the first one. Mentions were at 69.5 thousand. That was up 238.8%. And followers, first 28 days was up 20,648. So we're really proud of those figures. We won't hang our hats on it until we really subdue the state and get more people into the party, but I'm proud of our progress. Since then, I would say that we've accumulated about 30,000 new follows, which is up about 13% since we inherited the account. So yeah, proud of the progress. Dave Smith, has been a big part of it too. So I'm not taking full credit. A lot of the ideas come from the state affiliates, come from contributors, which I really appreciate. And I've also put our top 10 most successful tweets since the Reno National Convention into the original report. That's where I'll stop. I'll give the other time to others and maybe if there's questions. Yeah.
When can we start taking the best fire tweets and turning them into
I don't know. I mean, we should talk about that to the next.
Can we just point out just the astonishing turnaround of Twitter under their management? When I saw that education tweet, someone who spent years in the desert on a local basis fighting for that was like an oh yeah moment. It was that good. And your stuff on the 4th of July, when a lot of us were around family, to be able to show that, here, read that. It's astonishing.
Okay, we're gonna let Carrie go, and then we're gonna bring Connor, and then we'll take questions from everybody, and so, anything?
We're short on time, so I'll hustle, but I wanted to give you a little bit of background on social media in general. So nearly 3.25 billion people, 42% of the world's population, is using one or more forms of mainstream social media. Facebook is, of course, the giant with 3 billion active users. YouTube is next in line with about 2.3 billion. Twitter seems dwarfed by comparison at 330 million, but it's very important political discourse. Instagram, which is what I'm helping with, is 1.4 billion. So it's in there. It's not super high, but it's significant. But what is significant that I'd like to share with you is that Instagram users average 53 minutes per day engaging on that platform. Compare that to about 35 minutes per day on Facebook, 12 minutes on YouTube, and 4 minutes on Twitter. So if you have a complicated message, and in some ways, some of our messages are a little more complex, Instagram is a good platform for that. So we're trying to take advantage of that. And we've been doing that since we inherited the account June 17th. And we've got an increase of 142% in reach in just the first 30-day period that we've been working on the account. So there is an engagement increase that was around 317%. Total followers increased 1.4%. We had a large amount of rage quits that happened after the convention. People were upset about things that changed in the platform, and there were a lot of messages. Speaking of messages, there were about 175 weeks of unanswered messages. I don't think they had the staff previously availability and be able to handle that. So I did go through and I answered all of those people. I apologized for the lack of response previously. People were incredibly gracious, and I was able to connect people with their affiliates, things like that. But we're able to move forward now with $2 million. And there's just a lot more engagement, and we're trying to create what's more often. The average report was about once every 7 to 8 days, and it wasn't always. It was kind of in bursts. So we're trying to do at least 5 times a week, and we're actually doing more than that almost every day. And to post more on stories and things like that. So we're just going to continue to try and add to our engagement there as part of our social media platform.
Thank you.
Connor. I run the Facebook page now. So I'll start off with some raw data. So since June 6th to July, I believe it was 22nd when I updated this report, Facebook page reached 1.4 million people. It was up 260%. Organic reach, that differentiates between paid advertisements and certain people sharing, was up 307% to 1.1 million. Our organic engagements are up 1,500% over 90-day periods throughout this year so far. And so we've gained 5,000 new followers, bringing the total to 708,000. So some things I identified on the Facebook page when I started accessing it. We needed to increase the volume of the posts, and I noticed we weren't sharing candidate and affiliate content all that regularly, as well as interacting with other accounts, so such as your, the Spike Cohen, like trolling the ATF, for example. I haven't been able to interact with that level just because of my personal restrictions on the time I can put into it, but focus on sharing affiliate and candidate content and increasing the volume of content to, when I'm able to, in excess of 10 posts a day. So, and I've been getting a lot of feedback from candidates and affiliates that they all appreciate the support, and I think everyone's getting, I don't have the hard data, that I am hoping all the affiliates that we're helping promote are gaining traction as well. So some points of further improvement, I definitely would like more volunteers. I had written in my report that some of the volunteers had withdrawn their support. I'd just like to correct the record and say Keith hasn't. He's very busy between work and some miscommunication issues on my part with him. So he's still very much involved, but we definitely need more. We need to be generating much more content. And so with the restrictions we have, I mean, we're limited based on current people's time schedule. So I'm always looking for more volunteers. So if anyone wants to help or anyone wants to feed content to me, just feel free to do so. Any questions? Yes.
I volunteer for that.
Thank you. David, right?
Yeah.
Tyler. So, thank you.
Okay, any questions for the committee at large? Fire away. Oh, yes, Mark.
So, like all of you, I read the news and I get pissed off and I have ideas off of my head randomly. What is the most efficient way to send short screeds or ideas to you all?
For me, DM to dbenner83.
Sorry, say again?
To me, send a direct message to dbenner83 on Twitter if you want it to be.
I don't use Twitter. I just read. I don't have it.
Send it to dave.benner@lp.org. Yes, sir. For me, I don't know what you guys do.
You got to start on Twitter.
You can send things to my party email.
And is that useful, timely responses to do that?
Happy time.
If members prefer being contacted via email, would it just be better to have an email alias that they can drop that grabs all the social media folks?
It's not bad.
That's something we can go
more.
So I'm open to adding that. That's whatever makes it easier on you guys.
I don't think we don't need a motion.
Yeah. Okay, got it. So it shall be done.
You don't need a motion.
Decree. Tyrannical.
Start down the road to authoritarianism.
Here we go.
And here we go. I think that concludes that agenda item. Fantastic work. Thank you again. Thank you. Okay, we are ahead of schedule, which is really great because I was afraid we were going to need a special meeting for our next agenda item. And there's a chance now that we won't. So the next item on the agenda is adoption of strategy for 2022 to 2024. A portion of it is going to be an executive session. Yeah, I think that we can knock out the executive session part in 15, maybe 20 minutes at the most. I'm just guessing.
I could make a motion.
Let's do that. I think that would be cool.
Yeah, I have a motion to rise in executive session.
Okay.
Second.
For the purpose of discussing,
For the purpose of discussing strategy for 2022.
and who seconded?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Bowen seconded. Yes. So I think this needs to be, two ways. I think this needs to be just the LNC, and then I would also, after we have a short chat, I would like to get some feedback from staff, because I think it's very important to get their feedback on some items as well. And then we can open it up to everyone. Is that room?
Yeah, I'll move that too, so half with.
Yep, half
LNC, staff.
half just us, half LNC huddle, half LNC with staff. We good? Okay, any further discussion on that? Okay, what's the vote threshold on this?
It's
Just a majority, okay.
We
Would
need
you
a
like
motion.
a roll call vote, or can we do a simple majority?
For executive session, we can,
Just a show of hands?
yeah.
Okay. All in favor? And anyone opposed? And any abstentions? Okay, so we are gonna go into executive session. Yeah, and we will pull you all back in as soon as we are done. Thank you, guys.
And the string I need to.
Yep. Mr. Allen is.